How would you feel walking into a hair salon only to find there are no mirrors? Would you still get your hair done or leave right away, afraid of what might happen? Let's dive into the story. Ekwutosi's shop was always bustling. The young woman was famous throughout Ogwudire and neighboring towns for her unmatched skill. She could twist, braid, and weave hair faster than anyone could imagine. In one day, she could work on 15 women's hair without breaking a sweat, each style intricate and flawless. Do you know Ekwutosi did my hair in just 20 minutes yesterday? One woman marveled. 20 minutes? She did mine in 15 minutes, another boasted, tapping her intricately braided crown. As they gossiped outside the shop, one woman sat silently, deep in thought. Nikuruka had heard the rumors and marveled at Ekwutosi's speed. But one thing bothered her more than anything. There were no mirrors in the shop. Every time she went there, she would sit and watch as Ekwutosi worked on the customers. But the absence of mirrors gnawed her curiosity. Why doesn't she need a mirror? Nikuruka muttered to herself one day after leaving the shop. How does she work so fast without ever seeing the back of a customer's head? Her curiosity consumed her, and she decided she needed answers. The next day, Nikuruka returned to the shop, hoping to finally figure out Ekwutosi's secret. She waited until her turn, then casually asked as she sat down, Ekwutosi, why don't you have mirrors here? Ekwutosi's finger froze for just a moment before continuing to weave Nikuruka's hair. There is no need, she replied curtly, her voice cold. But how do you know the hair looks good without seeing it? Nikuruka pressed. Ekwutosi's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, she turned her full attention to Nikuruka. Do you doubt my skill? She asked, her voice laced with irritation. Nikuruka quickly shook her head. No, of course not. I was just curious. Ekwutosi's expression darkened, and she said nothing more. Nikuruka fell silent, sensing she had crossed a line. Still, her curiosity burned even hotter now. Something was definitely strange about the shop. Why was Ekwutosi so defensive about mirrors? Later that night, as Nikuruka sat at home, brushing her freshly braided hair, a plan formed in her mind. Next time, I will bring a small mirror, she thought. I need to know what's really happening. The following week, Nikuruka returned to Ekwutosi's shop, but this time she carried a small mirror hidden in her bag. She waited patiently for her turn, heart pounding in her chest as Ekwutosi's sweet fingers danced through her hair. Nikuruka discreetly pulled the mirror out and angled it to catch a glimpse of what was happening behind her. What she saw made her blood run cold. In the reflection, it wasn't Ekwutosi braiding her hair. It was a ghostly figure, a twisted shadowy being with long bony fingers that moved with terrifying speed. Its face was gaunt, eyes hollow, and its hands flew through her hair faster than humanly possible. Nikuruka gasped, her hand shaking so badly that the mirror slipped from her grasp. What did I just see? She whispered in shock, her pulse racing. Without thinking, she jumped up from her seat and bolted from the shop, her breath coming in sharp. Panic, gasp. Nikuruka, Ekwutosi called after her, rushing out of the shop. What happened? Why are you running? Nikuruka stopped. Trembling, she turned to face Ekwutosi, her eyes wide with fear. I know what's happening. Ekwutosi, I know why you don't allow mirrors. It's not you. It's a spirit, a ghost. It's doing the air. Ekwutosi's face drained of color and her shoulders slumped. She sank to the ground, tears welling up in her eyes. I never wanted this, she whispered, her voice breaking. I was cursed. I never wanted anyone to find out. Nkiruka knelt beside her, her fear slowly melting into concern. Tell me, Ekwutosi, what happened? Through her tears, Ekwutosi explained. It all started long before I was born, she said quietly, her voice thick with emotion. My parents, Ugonna and Ifeoma, were respected members of our village. My father, Ugonna, was known for his wisdom, and my mother, Ifeoma, was known for her beauty and kindness. Together, they were admired and people often came to them for advice or help. But behind closed doors, they carried a deep secret, a greed that consumed them slowly over the years. One day, my father was approached by a wealthy merchant who had recently arrived in Umuofia. This man, Obiora, was known for his mysterious wealth and power, but no one knew how he came by it. He offered my father something he couldn't refuse, a chance to make our family the richest in the village. But the price was steep. Obiora told my father that in exchange for wealth, he had to offer something valuable, something from our family's lineage. Nkiruka leaned in closer. Her brow furrowed. What did he ask for? She whispered. Ekwutosi's voice grew quieter. Our glory, she said, her words like a painful confession. He wanted the glory of our future generations, our children, our grandchildren. In return, he promised that he would never know poverty, that our family would prosper. My father was tempted, and against my mother's better judgment, he agreed. They performed a ritual, a dark ceremony in the dead of the night. My father offered the peace of our family spirit to Obiora, binding our future generation to his curse. Nkiruka's eyes widened, horrified. Your parents sold your family's future for wealth? Ekwutosi nodded, her eyes downcast. At first, everything seemed fine. My parents became richer than anyone in the village. They had more land, more livestock, and more respect than they ever imagined. But there was a price for their greed, a price they didn't realize until it was too late. She paused, her fingers nervously tracing patterns on the floor. When I was born, everything seemed normal. I was their only child, and they loved me. But as I grew older, strange things began to happen. My parents would have nightmares, visions of spirits, shadows that haunted our home. They ignored them at first, thinking they were just bad dreams. But these spirits were real, and they had come to collect what was owed. When I was around 10 years old, my mother fell ill, struck by a sickness no one could explain. It was as if her life was being drained away. My father sought help from every healer in the village, but nothing worked. As she lay on her deathbed, my mother finally admitted to me what had happened, the deal they had made with Obiora. Ekwutosi's eyes filled with tears as she recalled her mother's last moments. She told me that the curse had already begun to take hold of her family. She begged me to forgive her, but I was too young to understand. Not long after she died, and my father, he lost his mind. The guilt consumed him. He became obsessed with trying to reverse the curse. But it was too late. The damage was done. Nkiruka's heart tightened as she listened to Ekwutosi's painful story. What happened after that? She asked softly. My father wandered off into the forest. One day, Ekwutosi continued, her voice cracking. He never returned. The elder said he went mad from grief and guilt, but I knew the truth. The spirit had claimed him too. I was left alone. And then the curse turned its attention to me. Ekwutosi let out a shaky breath before continuing. When I reached adulthood, I started having strange dreams. Dreams of spirits calling my name, telling me that I must take up a trade. They told me that if I didn't become a hairdresser, I would die. I tried to resist, but the more I fought, the sicker I became. Finally, I gave in. She wiped a tear from her cheek. That's when the spirit, the one you saw, came into my life. It wasn't just any spirit, Nikuruka. It was one of the same spirit my father had made a deal with. It's been with me ever since. He does all the work in my shop, but at a terrible cost. Every time it braids someone's hair, it takes a piece of their glory, just like it took mine. That's why I've never allowed mirrors in my shop. Nikuruka's eyes welled up with tears. Ekwutosi, this is terrible. You have been carrying this burden alone for so long. Ekwutosi nodded, her expression one of deep sorrow. I have tried to keep the custody, but it ruined my life. I've lost everyone I loved, and I have been trapped in this shop for years. I never wanted this. But I had no choice. If I didn't follow the spirit's demand, I would have died just like my parents. Nikuruka reached out and held Ekwutosi's hand tightly. This isn't your fault. Your parents made a terrible mistake, but you don't have to carry this curse any longer. We can break it. I promise I will help you. Ekwutosi looked into Nikuruka's eyes. Her face filled with a mixture of hope and fear. Do you really think there's a way? Nikuruka nodded confidently. There is. I know someone who can help us. We will break this curse, and you will finally be free. For the first time in years, Ekwutosi allowed herself to hope. She had carried the weight of her family's sins for too long, but now, with Nikuruka's help, she dared to believe that she could be free from the evil that had tormented her for so many years. Later that night, Nikuruka visited an elderly woman known for her ancient knowledge. Nikuruka explained everything, and the elderly woman listened intently, nodding as she pieced together the situation. The spirit is tied to the curse, the elderly woman said. But it can be trapped. Take this mirror, she said, handing Nikuruka a large old mirror, its surface shimmering with a strange glow. Tell Ekwutosi to place the mirror in her shop and say, mirror, mirror, reveal the spirit. When the spirit appears, the mirror will draw it in, and once it's inside, she must smash it. Nikuruka returned to Ekwutosi and explained the old woman's plan. The next morning, Ekwutosi did not open her shop. The first time in years, she locked the doors, refusing any customers. With trembling hands, she held the magical mirror. Nikuruka stood beside her, offering comfort. You can do this, Nikuruka whispered. You will finally be free. Ekwutosi took a deep breath and held the mirror high. Mirror, mirror, reveal the spirit, she shouted. The air in the shop grew icy, and a sudden gust of wind wiped through the room. A ghostly figure emerged, its hollow eyes glaring at Ekwutosi with rage. It tried to resist the pull of the mirror, but the force was too strong. Slowly, the spirit was sucked into the mirror's surface. No! The spirit screeched, its voice echoing in the small room. With one final pull, the spirit was trapped. Ekwutosi, her hand shaking, smashed the mirror on the floor. The shop filled with the sound of the shattering glass, and as the pieces fell, the air cleared. The curse was broken. Ekwutosi fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "I am free," she whispered, barely believing the words. Nikruka hugged her tightly. "You are free. Yes, you are free." From that day forward, Ekwutosi's shop was filled with mirrors, and she worked with her own hands, no longer haunted by the spirit that once controlled her life. Thank you. I hope you enjoy this thrilling and exciting tales. What lessons did you learn from this tale? Let me know in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on my latest story. Thank you and bye for now. See you in my next tale. Bye.